Microphone 1.
Mr. for having these talks. My name is Daniel Nuremberg. I'm a entrepreneur and an IT consultant. I work in technology every day. I'm also a content creator. I've also had my content plagiarized and republished from a web-based format to a published book-based format, and have had to take legal proceedings to protect that copyright, where I felt there wasn't enough there to help me out. I think that what's really important to remember is that individuals create. Whether you're working for a corporation, whether you're working with a team of people, individuals create. If the creator creates something that the market is willing to pay for, in a way that an industry will grow up around that person or around those creators. And I think that what's critically important is that we don't protect industries whose models might be dying as the world moves forward into these new realms. And I think that ultimately, in protecting an industry whose monetization strategy is no longer valid in our current society, in the way society is moving forward, in legislation, is tantamount to playing with the free market. I believe that if the industry is adaptive and if they're forward-looking, they will come up with a way to monetize it. Because I think fundamentally, Canadians do not want to steal the content creation of other people, or that there are other methods to go and get money for putting that content out there. I myself use an ad-driven model where I create freely, but it still is bothersome to me when someone takes my content and then profits for it by printing it in a book. So finally, I think it's critically important that the law protects content creators and not dying business models. We have to make sure that disruptive business models and that new business models can replace what's there before that better serves the market and Canadians today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nuremberg. Now for mic number 2, numéro 2.
Bonjour,
Jean Grégoire, President of the Fédération étudiante universitaire du Québec. As a representative of the student organization, has 120,000 members. I'd like to underline a few things. We've noticed on the one hand that there are different groups here that have interests that are difficult to reconcile. On the one hand, those who want more rigid protection of copyright of works and creations. On the other hand, for certain requests concerning an increase of information, that it be easier to broadcast. At the universities, we have a problem with students who are researchers, professors who are researchers, and students. We're sort of on both sides. On the one hand, we have to have access to the information. For academic reasons, it's essential that students have access to all the information necessary at the time and place where they need it. So the idea is the student having access to important information. And students end up producing briefs and what have you. They become writers themselves. So these students who are producing content need to be protected by a good framework act. So what we hope is that the government will be able to set up an act that strikes a balance between holders, users, and the interests of society in general. What we would like is that the government specify fair use for teaching, in that it's not copyright infringement. It would also be important that there be exemptions for teaching, and that all the exemptions, that it be the same as what existed before. Exemption for educational institutions, libraries, and museums. Lastly, we've noticed that there are new works in the Act, and that these new types of work be covered by the academic exemption clause that you'd put in the Act. And if you present a new bill, we hope that there will be other consultations and that it'll be possible to submit briefs at that time. Thank you very much. And if you have any ideas, you can go on our website, copyrightconsultations.ca, so consultationsdroitdauteur.ca in French. So you can, if you have, you can do that. If you have something today, there are people from the department who are here, so if you have any ideas, we're open to anything that comes in written form as well. Thank you, Minister, Mr. Grégoire, and Nicole.
This one from Emmanuel. Revision of the Copyright Act affords the unique opportunity to address a major obstacle to access to valuable cultural materials. While excellent audiovisual records of valuable cultural materials have and continue to be created by the excellent documentary producers in Canada, incidental inclusion of small parts of copyright-protected materials, for example, musical, trademark, visual, and other materials, can pose significant obstacles to providing access to these cultural materials, often by cost-prohibitive fees demanded for allowing the inclusion of these small parts of the copyright-protected materials in the documentaries. Documentaries deserve express attention and a new copyright regime.
Merci. Maintenant, le micro numéro 3, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour, mon nom est Raymond Duberger, je suis producteur et
Berger, producer, manager at a sound studio and a record administrator. I'd like to bring up a very specific viewpoint in this consultation. The idea being to stop living in an illusory world. This great illusion is that new technologies are fascinating the entire world. So we're being blinded to the content. If we want to defend Canadian content, if we want Canadian content to continue to move forward in Canada and throughout the world, we're going to need tools. Because if we lose control of Canadian content in the context of these technologies, the forum will win over the content and will decide on the content. I'm thinking of net access of the servers who use this. Currently, the situation is not made easier. It makes it even more complicated. Before, we had to defend ourselves against radio, television, etc., but now we have to deal with internet technology, which will call for even more investment rather than less. And if competition means that we can attack the world can attack us too. So we need to have tools so that we, as Canadians who are composers, authors, and so on, be able to fight in these markets. Microphone 4, please. Hello?
Wide web design, and today the internet stake is more and more a part in our life. Almost 90% of businesses go online, and actually we deal with copyright law every day. We need to spend the time for find who steal our content or pictures, how actually the copyright protect us. If it's possible to build some program in a copyright website that actually make for web design association or private or businesses the link to your system, and your system will find, like Google can find, the same content and just mail us. It's very simple and easy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.